All right, I would like to call this annual organizational meeting to order on Tuesday, January 2nd, and thank everybody for coming. So I'll call it to order. Our agenda has the roll call second, but I would like to move item 4, the oath of office, to number 2, if it's all right with everybody here, and then it seems more likely. All right. I think that an official oath of office was already taken, but we have another one we would like to do here for our new members, and I have something I would like to read first before the oath of office. This is not something I comprise, but I think it's important that we say this, and it's to the new members. It's an honor that you are elected to guide the education of our community's children. As you recite the oath of office, you assume a tremendous responsibility as a member of our school district, with the duties empowered by the Minnesota legislature. This power puts you and other members of our school board in the position of being both morally and legally responsible for equitable, quality education of every student in the district. In carrying out this responsibility, you will be asked to fulfill the roles of vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. In providing vision, the board, with extensive participation of the community, envisions the community's educational future and formulates the goals, defines the outcomes, and sets the course for the public schools. To achieve the vision, the board establishes a structure and creates an environment designed to ensure all students the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. Because as a board, we must be accountable to the community, we must ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children. As board members, we serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for our schools. Furthermore, we must strive to work together with the superintendent and staff to lead the district toward fulfilling the vision we have created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills and knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. So I would like, you can stand or you can sit as you, I think you should stand. It seems more impressive. Thank you. So you can repeat after me. I, and then say your names.
Jill Wolfall.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
And the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
Of member of the School Board of Independent School District Number 709.
A member of the School Board of Independent School District Number 709.
St. Louis County, Minnesota.
St. Louis County, Minnesota.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. You are.
Thank you.
Welcome all of you. Glad to have you here. Next, could we have the roll call? And our previous clerk, Annie Harlow, is no longer a member, so Member Leffler Kemp, who was the vice chair at the time, will you read it, the roll call, please?
I would be glad to.
Get John there.
Member Gorham.
Present.
Chair Kirby.
Here?
Member Lofold.
Here.
Member Oswell.
Here.
Member Sandstead.
Here.
Member Trinka.
Here.
Superintendent Grunset.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Starzecki. Here. Deputy Clerk Doug Hausler.
Here.
Secretary Dolans. Here. And Secretary Thibault.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda, and I think you all have a copy of that before you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. that we approve the agenda as written. And so any discussion on this? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then the agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is the election of officers. And I'll just give a few comments about this. This is an open vote. There will be no secret ballot, and in this case, if it's all right with everyone, we can have a show of hands for who is voting. Any board member can nominate any board member or themselves, and no second is necessary for a nomination. In the past, I know we've had a nominee can refuse or decline if they choose to do so and feel they cannot or will not fulfill the nomination or want to take the position. Those are the outlines of what we will do. So nominations are now in order for the office of chair. Member Littlekamp.
I nominate David Kirby for chair.
Thank you. I will accept that, but I would like to make a couple of brief comments. Usually the chair, at least in my recollection, has been rotated, although historically this has not always been the case. In accepting this, I want to make it clear that I am aware and understand that the chair is only 1 out of 7 votes. No more, no less important, it's 1 of 7. And as individual members, I think that we support the decision of the board and move forward, and I would be no different than anyone else in that regard. I think that the board and the district are facing some significant opportunities and challenges in the year ahead. And in view of the 3 new members that we just welcomed, all of whom are competent, very competent, with unique strengths and backgrounds, I feel I can contribute some continuity to this and be helpful in the transition period as you come onto the board. There's a learning curve for new board members. Believe me, you will find out. There was a learning curve for being chair, as I found out. And I think that I can help if I'm reelected. Finally, the time commitment, you will find, is probably greater than you had anticipated too, and certainly it was for the chair. It's often substantial, and I must say I'm willing to commit to this, and I think my family is too, as I know your families will be having to make commitments too for you guys. So if reelected, I express my thanks for your confidence in me, but I do accept that nomination with those comments. Gotta see where you are. Member Oswald.
I'd like to nominate myself, and I'd like to speak to that just for a minute. It's not that I believe that Chair Kirby is not competent in any sense of the form. I believe he's been a fine chair, and if he wins the vote, will be so again. I, just like last year, am going to nominate myself for every position because as a senior member on the board now with 2 years under my belt, I believe that I should have some sort of leadership role on the board. I think I've earned it. I think I have a lot of respect and gained a lot of trust with our community. If I don't win chair, then maybe I'll win one of the other ones, but I believe I'm competent enough to fill any role that I'm asked.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? We just have to ask this 3 times, so I'm not just repeating myself. Seeing no other nominations, then we can vote for the position of chair. As with other decisions, the majority of the voting members is necessary to elect someone, and so in that case it will be 4 members voting. So, all in favor of David Kirby for chair, raise their right hand. Raise the hand. That is 6. All in favor of Member Oswald, raise their hand. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much, and Member Kirby is re-elected chair for this coming year. Thank you very much. I appreciate the confidence. Next, we will elect a vice chair. This position is not mandated by the state, but is in our own policy. So nominations are now in order for the office of vice chair. Member Lofald.
I'd like to nominate Rosie Loeffler-Kemp for vice chair.
Thank you. And Member Kemp, do you accept?
Yes, I accept,
okay.
and I don't have more to say except that I think based on my experience with the board, I could step into the role of vice chair as needed, as David may need.
Member Oswald.
I nominate myself.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, the nominations are closed, and we'll have a vote. All in favor of electing member Rosie Loeffler-Kemp as vice chair, raise their hand. Thank you. That is 6. All voting for member Oswald, raise their hand. Thank you. And member Loeffler-Kemp is the new vice chair by a vote of 6-1. Next is the election of our clerk. Nominations are now open for the office of clerk. Member Sandsted.
I'd like to nominate myself for the position of clerk.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Member Oswald. Oops, sorry. Here. There you go.
I nominate myself.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? Seeing none, those nominations are closed and we can vote. All in favor of electing Member Sandsted as clerk for the upcoming year, please raise their hand. Thank you. That is 6. All in favor of Member Oswald? 1. Thank you. So Member Sandsted is our new clerk. Congratulations. We can wait till after the election, I think. Okay. Finally, our next position is the office of treasurer. Nominations are now in order for the office of treasurer. Are there any nominations? Member Oswald.
I nominate myself.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of treasurer? Member Loeffler-Kemp.
I'd like to nominate Josh Gorham, and my reasoning is I'd like to have a new board member serve on the leadership team, and I think particularly as treasurer, just have a kind of new eyes on the books, so to speak.
Oh, wait, I have to find you here. There you go.
And I'll accept that nomination.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Member Trinka, I have to find you here just a second. No. Oh, here we go. Should be. This one's I want. No, I can't. There we go. You got it. There you go. Now you're on.
Thank you. Given that, as everyone knows, we're under a lot of fiscal constraints and strains within the district, I guess before I make a vote, I'd like to hear from both of the people who have accepted nominations as to why you think you would serve that role well, what you think you can bring to that, and kind of what your vision is for what that role might look like.
Thank you. Member Oswald?
Should I be elected treasurer, I know I'm already budget-minded and budget-conscious, and I want to make sure that we're spending every dollar appropriately so we can build trust with our public that we're spending their tax money wisely and appropriately and in the best ways possible so that we can utilize our budget to the maximum and be sure that we're able to use what we have and spend within our means. And when we need more money, we're able to ask for it honestly with openness and transparency and trust. And the public can believe in us that we're going to do the best we can with it.
Thank you. Member Gorham, I think you're on.
Thank you for the question and opportunity to speak on it. I think coming in as a new board member, certainly there are many things we need to learn, and school finance is complicated, and I acknowledge that I do have a lot to learn there. That is why I have embraced fully attending the Minnesota School Board Association trainings, and there would be one as such. School finance is very important to the various issues I campaigned on, whether it be educational equity and achievement or school classroom sizes, etc. So I think being in that role puts me in a position to learn more, while also bringing a vision. The main thing that I campaigned on and want to bring to the board here is, along with my skill set, is education equity, and how can we attain that? And Mr. Howes, William Howes, is working on a framework for the board and for, I believe, the school district overall, to make sure that we're implementing that framework with equity. And I'd like to see that brought into our budgeting systems, however that may be. And I would like to be a part of supporting that happening in the school district system.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of electing Member Oswald as treasurer, raise their hand. There are 3. Did you get? Okay. All in favor of Member Gorham, raise their hand. That is 4. So Member Gorham is elected treasurer. Thank you. Now, perhaps you and, yeah.
Change spots.
Yeah. Let the clerk.
Congratulations. You get the official pen.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you have a pen.
It's black.
Yeah. It has,
We use blue.
I know, it has to be black here.
Original.
All right. Next on our agenda is the appointment of deputy clerk. It'll be Hassler. We don't have the names of those people here. And it is. Have the old ones here.
Yep. He
It's
doesn't,
just
he doesn't have a list.
don't have a list. No.
Here you go.
We have them here. Oh, there.
No, you don't have
Deputy clerk.
deputy clerk. No. Goes.
No. Oh, here we go. So do all these 3 just, so it's just the one? Okay. There's just one name. Sorry. Looking for if there was more than one name. That would be Deputy Clerk Doug Hassler. Do I have a motion to make that appointment? Second. Okay, we'll say Member Trinka moved and Member Leffler-Kemp seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of appointing Mr. Doug Hassler as Deputy Clerk, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is the appointment of our board secretaries, Jackie Dolence and Melinda Thibault. Do I have a motion to approve these appointments?
So moved.
Moved by Member Sandstead and seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of making these appointments, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And this is approved unanimously. Next we have, before you, I think you have these resolutions, a variety of resolutions that we need to go through one by one. The first, Resolution B1-183509, selection of meeting dates and times. Let's go down the list. Member Leffler-Kemp, will you read that resolution, please?
I move Resolution B1-183509, selection of meeting dates and times. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the regular meetings of the school board shall be held the third Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. at the historic Old Central High School, unless otherwise scheduled by the school board.
Thank you. Is there a second to this?
Second.
Seconded by Member Sandstead. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B1-183509, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously. The next resolution, designation of depositories and acceptance of collateral. We'll move on down the line. Josh, Member Gorham, can you read that, please?
I move Resolution B1-183510, designation of depositories and acceptance of collateral. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that Harbor Point Credit Union, North Shore Bank of Commerce, BMO Harris Bank, U.S. Bank, Key Bank, Wells Fargo, Park State Bank, and Western Bank shall be depositories of the funds of this school district for up to a one-year period, commencing January 1, 2018. And said bank shall be required to deposit with said district collateral securities, subject to approval by the school board and Captain Trust. Resolved that the collateral securities pledged by Harbor Point Credit Union and placed in trust at Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, North Shore Bank of Commerce and placed in trust at U.S. Bank, N.A., Key Bank and placed in trust at Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, all is provided by law and evidenced by trust agreements executed by the treasurer of the school board, an officer of the depository bank, and acknowledged by an officer of the bank holding the securities in trust shall be approved. Harbor Point Credit Union, North Shore Bank of Commerce, BMO Harris Bank, U.S. Bank, Key Bank, Wells Fargo Bank, Park State Bank, Western Bank, resolve that the treasurer, clerk, and/or CFO, executive director of business services shall be authorized to arrange for the exchange, release, or placing of additional collateral, provided that in all instances such exchange, releases, or placing of additional collateral shall be approved by the school board, and all new collateral shall be placed in trust with the respective aforementioned institutions.
Thank you. Is there a second to this? Seconded by Member Leffler-Kemp. Any discussion? Comments? All right. All in favor of accepting Resolution B1-183510, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then this passes unanimously. Our next resolution, Member Sandstead, can you read that, please?
Sure can.
Here, I'll get you there.
Resolution designating of authority to perform electronic fund transfers. Resolved by the School District of Independent School District Number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the CFO, Executive Director of Business Services, has the authority to designate a district employee or employees to initiate electronic fund transfers as required by Minnesota Statute 471.38 I move Resolution B 1/183511.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Lofold. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting Resolution B 1/183511, say aye. Aye. Opposed? This passes unanimously. Next is Resolution B 1/183512. Member Oswald, can you read that, please?
Resolution, authorization of the superintendent of schools and the CFO executive director of business services to sign contracts and grants. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that to increase operational efficiency, it is requested that authorization to sign revenue contracts and expenditure contracts for the lease, purchase, and contract for goods of services within budgetary and policy limits up to $25,000 be granted to the superintendent of schools and the CFO executive director of business services. This delegation of authorization is allowable under Minnesota Statute 123B.52 Subdivision 2. The superintendent's designee will review each contract before execution. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the superintendents of schools, or in his or her absence, the CFO executive director of business services, be designated the legal authorized representative to sign applications and execute grant documents for and in behalf of the school district in connection with federal and state laws and funding authorities and local public and private funding agencies that offer categorical financial support to this district. Resolved by the School Board of ISD 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that a list of all the above contracts and grants hereby approved by the superintendent and/or the CFO executive director of business services will be provided as an informational item at the first possible regular school board meeting following the approval action. I remove Resolution B-1-18-3512.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion? Member Oswald. Member Oswald.
I had mentioned, I believe, last month that I am concerned about the policy limit of $25,000 in this resolution. It has been that case for quite a while now, but it is an anomaly among school districts to have a resolution that has such a high limit of $25,000. With our recent budget issues and concerns that we're dealing with effectively, I don't believe that we should be just letting this happen with trust and assurance that we have the money to pay for it and it's being spent in the way that we're supposed to be spending it. So I would like to make a motion to half that amount, to make the limit $1,000 or $12,500 instead of $25,000.
So you would like to, your motion is to amend Resolution B 1/183512 to set the policy limit to $12,500.
Yes.
Instead of $25,000. Is there a second?
Probably not.
I'll second for the purpose of discussion.
Thank you. Member Sandstedt has seconded that. Is there any discussion on this? Member Trinko.
Did you find me?
Yes.
Okay. So for purposes of discussion, I'm curious about the aforementioned comment that you made about what kind of the mean of for school districts of our size is around what that policy limit is up to. As a professional who has a policy limit for my board, I understand the need for it because it does take a lot of time and energy to keep those contracts moving. So I'd also be curious, not having the information in front of me, approximately how many contracts are you signing quarterly that that fall underneath that, maybe that are in between, just ballpark, in between the 12,500 and the 25,000.
Member Grant, or Superintendent?
There were some questions earlier, and Mr. Hassler has done some research, and he'll be able to give you a better handle on those numbers.
Mr. Hassler.
Thank you. I may not be able to break it down in the way that you just asked. We did go back over the past year and the number of contracts that would have been reported to the board on a monthly basis for the last 12 months would represent probably over 100, maybe 120 total within that authority, from 0 up to 25,000. One thing that I did look at was how many of those exceeded 20,000, and my count was 11. So out of over 100 contracts, about 11 fell somewhere greater than 20,000. Many of them fall $5,000 or less, but obviously over the course of the year, there were 11 occasions that we had contracts come up over 20,000. If you're looking at a 12,500 threshold, I don't have information on that, but obviously it would be a greater number. I think it'd probably still be less than half, but it'd be a more meaningful number.
Member Sandstead.
Member Lofold. Oh, it's me. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Member Lofold. Sorry.
Oh, now we're mislabeled.
Yeah, we're mislabeled. I'm sorry. Member Lofold.
My question is really directed to Member Oswald when you comment, too, that there's been some research done as to what other districts have as their cap. Do you have more specifics on that?
Member Oswald?
In my brief discussion with MSBA, it's much more typical to have a $10,000 limit. Some have much less. It's our prerogative to set it to what it wants to be, and not everybody has the budget challenges we do, and I would like to build some public confidence knowing that we're taking a rein in on our finances and making sure that we're double checking ourselves.
Member Leffler-Kemp.
I just wanted to follow up too with the superintendent or with Mr. Hassler if you are aware of school districts our size and what their budget limit is. I want to kind of push that point a little bit more on similar school districts.
Superintendent.
I have not done research on that. Depending on the size of the district, however, their budgets could be anywhere from 1 million to hundreds of millions, depending on the size of the district. And that would greatly increase the number of contracts that would come to a school board. So if a large school district had a lower threshold, it means more contracts that come to the board. I think that the majority of the things that we do are well under that 25,000 threshold. I believe I reviewed the last 4 or 5 months, and I think the only thing close was a payment to one of the colleges for a college in the schools because we pay those tuitions. The one thing that it would do is anything that would be under that threshold would need to wait for board action for that contract to be put in place. So there would be more things across the district that would be kind of waiting for board approval rather than moving forward. This is something that can be amended along the way if you should choose to do that through a future resolution as well. So, but I haven't done any research on what those numbers are.
Member Gorham.
My question is, with potential delays with the board having to potentially approve more contracts, what kind of ripple effects would that have on our school district system? Would we be holding things back that are vital and necessary, or is it very feasible to get these in front of us in a fashion where we could approve and execute them in a timely manner?
Superintendent.
I'm just looking over the last few months of contracts to see how many of them were over that 12,000 mark and what they were. speech services, programs for academic and cultural enrichment, computer programmer, interim healthcare staffing services, college in the schools, unemployment cost management service, software agreement, adult basic ed program, a nutritionist for Head Start, so that would be a grant though. A contract with someone who is helping us with the English language arts adoption, asbestos abatement, mental health consultant, college in the schools. That's about internet service. That's it for the past, first half of the year.
Member Oswald?
Well, from what I'm hearing, changing this resolution is much less about what we affect, or what contracts there aren't that as many as there need to be. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Anyways, we're not affecting a lot of change by changing this, but what we are affecting is the public perception of how we're spending our money and how we're overseeing our money. Any delays can be taken care of in 3 days, because if you need a contract signed, you call a meeting in 3 days. So that's what happens, and it's very routine. It's rare that there isn't a decision that can't be delayed. For something that significant that costs, over $20,000, I want to have that conversation, and I want the public to know that we're having that conversation to make sure we're overseeing our money.
Member Sandstedt. I think I find you here. There we go.
I agree with Member Oswald's intent of the oversight here, but practically speaking, I am not hearing that there would be any effective change other than adding more sort of rubber stamping duties and time to the board. So this is one that I'm not going to vote for at this time, but I would ask that all of us keep an eye on these things and that we inquire more as contracts come through. And if we see a change that's necessary in the next few months, I would definitely support lowering it at that time if it seems appropriate.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I would say I agree with what Member Sandstedt has just said. I think that we can watch for these things as well, but at this time I would not support it either. Member Gorham, sorry. I have to find you here.
Chiming in a little late here. I was able to get in kind of a last-minute question. Thank you, Mr. Hassler and Jackie, for helping me out. Just to kind of get some concept of how high the contracts are each month, what amount, how close are they coming to that $25,000 threshold. In 7 out of the 12 months, there would have been a contract in the ballpark of over $20,000. 8 out of 12 months, there would have been a contract exceeding the $12,500 limit. Member Oswald proposed. I am too in favor of more oversight as needed, but we do have the opportunity to approve those expenditures, and I guess I'm not seeing the need right now to lower that number.
Member Lefferkamp?
Yeah, I just wanted to add for the discussion too, some of the expenditures that the superintendent highlighted are grant funded, and so we have other opportunities to hear when those grants come through, when they're first introduced, what the potential funding of them would be, and then there's, a process where we do hear more than once the potential expenditures coming up, particularly the ones that are related to grants. So we're not hearing about them last minute, or we're not hearing about them right before they're expended either, particularly the ones that are related to grants. And you'll see that every month in our education report.
Member Oswald.
Member Loeffler-Kemp, I believe that our grants are accepted per resolution in the Education Committee report, as you said, and aren't part of our Business Committee meeting where the expenditures are located on the contracts we're talking about. Member Gorham, you said that we get to approve these anyway. Well, we don't get to approve them. This is approving them right now, so whatever comes up. And for your example, I mentioned at the November meeting there was over $154,000 in expenditure contracts just that month. And those numbers are what I'm concerned about. It's not the contracts that add up to that amount, but if there are things like discussions about we're spending a hefty chunk of change on a mental health practitioner, I would like to talk about that, because that talks about need and how we're meeting the needs of the mental health needs of our kids. And do we need more? Do we need to figure out different ways to get more money to do those things? It's about the conversation. It's about being transparent. It's about what we want to do for our community and for our kids. So I support this just because it has minimal impact in actually what we do, and I think it makes us look better to the community. It's an image thing because they know and will be able to trust us that we're not spending lots of money needlessly without discussion and being transparent about it.
Is there any other discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, then it's been moved by Member Oswald, seconded by Member Sandsted, I believe, to amend Resolution B 1-18-3512 to set the policy limits up to $12,500 rather than $25,000. All in favor of this amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Nay. This fails 1-6. Is there any further discussion on the resolution itself? Member Trinka.
Maybe as a compromise, I want to echo what Member Sandsted said. I would like some follow-up on what the average is for that for districts similar to us. Not looking at small schools or really large schools, but ones that are relatively comparable to Duluth, because I agree we need to be very mindful about what those spending caps look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps Mr. Hassler could look into this and provide it at our next business meeting. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then, it's been moved. This resolution has been moved and seconded. All in favor of Resolution B 1-18-3512, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
It passes 6-1 with Member Oswald voting no. Next resolution, B 1-18-3513. Member Lofald, can you read that resolution, please? It's on page 6. You got it? Okay. Now I have to find you here. I have to find you. Okay. There you go.
Resolution B 1-18-3513 reads, it's a selection of districts' legal counsel. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the following firms have been selected as legal counsel for the district: Freiberger, Buchanan, Smith, and Frederick, Dreyer, Storsley, yeah, I did, Knudsen and Palmerville, Ratwig, Rozak, and Melody. Who thinks of these names? Rupp, Anderson, Squires, and Waldsberger, those 4 legal firms. Resolved that the authorized contact persons for the district are as follows: Chair of the School Board, Superintendent of the Schools, Executive Assistant to Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, CFO, Executive Director of Business Services, Executive Assistant to the CFO, Executive Director of Business Services, Director of Special Education, Manager of Facilities, Finance Manager, Senior Human Resources Manager, Human Resources Manager for non-certified staff, Human Resources Benefits Coordinator. I move Resolution B 118-3513.
Thank you. It's been seconded by Member Sandsted. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B 118-3513 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is Resolution B 118-3514. Member Trinket, can you read that, please?
Gave me the hard one. Resolution B-1-18-3514, selection of the district's official newspaper. Resolved by the Board of Independent School District number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the district's official newspaper will continue to be the Duluth News-Tribune.
It's been moved and seconded by Member Oswald to approve Resolution B 118-3514. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of this resolution say aye. Aye. Opposed? This passes unanimously. 14. Moving on. Resolution B 118-3515. Member Leffler Kemp, can you read that, please?
I move Resolution B 118-3515, resolution accepting the 11 tools of civility. Whereas the residents of Duluth Public Schools ISD 709 place a high value on respect and civility in their lives, and they understand that these characteristics are essential to any healthy community. And whereas the School Board of Independent School District number 709 supports opportunities for civil discourse and discussion in the community and within the school district, and whereas the School Board of Independent School District number 709 addresses sometimes controversial issues about which people often feel passionately and which at times leads to uncivil behavior, and whereas an atmosphere of incivility and disrespect can have a damaging effect on the proceedings, on the quality of debate, and on the practice of democracy itself. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District number 709 recognizes 11 tools of civility as encouraged by the Speak Your Piece, the Civility Project, that will provide increased opportunities for civil discourse in order to find positive resolutions to the issues that face our community. These tools include pay attention, listen, be inclusive, don't gossip, show respect, be agreeable, apologize, give constructive criticism, take responsibility, be honest and care for others, and show your evidence, show your reasoning. Be it further resolved that the School Board of Independent School District number 709 shall promote the use and adherence of these tools in conducting the business of the school board.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Sandsted. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of approving Resolution B 118-3515, say aye. 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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. Next, Member Gorham, will you read Resolution 3516? I'm going to get you on here.
We'll get our group, sorry. I move Resolution B-118-3516 that reads as follows, approving the continued participation of student school board representatives. Whereas the School Board of Duluth Public Schools, ISD 709, has included student school board representatives since January 2005, and whereas student school board representatives provide the school board with a student voice and youth perspective, and whereas the Minnesota School Boards Association encourages school boards to develop a process to include student representatives, and whereas the superintendent and high school principals have reviewed and revised, where necessary, the selection process for appointing student school board representatives. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent United School District 709 approves the continued participation of one student school board representative from each Denfeld High School and Duluth East High School and the Area Learning Center. Be it further resolved that the term for the 2018 school board representatives will be January 2nd, 2018 to December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Trinka. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B-118-3516, say aye. Aye. Opposed? This passes unanimously. Finally, we're getting close to the end. Member Sandstedt, can you read our last resolution?
I can. This is with regard to employment of a school board member by the district. Whereas the school board members below will be employed by the Duluth Public Schools during their service as a school board member, and whereas Minnesota Statute 123B.195, board members' right to employment requires that the member receive a majority approval by the school board to be initially employed or to continue in employment at a meeting at which all board members are present, and whereas Minnesota Statute 123B.195, board members' rights to employment, states that the employment relationship will not exceed $8,000 in a fiscal year, excluding compensation for being a school board member. Be it resolved that the school board authorize the employment of the following school board members as listed, not to exceed $8,000 in a fiscal year. And they are board member Jill Lofald for speech coach and substitute teacher, and board member Alana Oswald for substitute teacher. I move Resolution SP 118-3517.
It's been moved, seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution SP 118-3517, say aye. 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 Opposed? That passes. Two abstentions? So it passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda. Superintendent.
I've just been asked to remind you at the end of the meeting, those of you who are newly elected officers, please hang out. You need to sign some paperwork and also to hand in your committee requests to Chair Kirby. And we'd also like to get a new photo for the website. So we'll gather around and get your picture.
Move to adjourn.
I have a move to adjourn. Is there a second? Seconded unanimously. Is there any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye. 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 We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
And the red folder stays.